Mayor Ting.
Thank you, Tony. How
Absolutely.
you doing? Good.
Good to see you, sir. We have a 3-minute introduction and anything you want to say about the arts, and then we'll do Q&A.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's great to be here today. I'm running for mayor because I think the city's better off if we all have more say. I see the same 300 folks in City Hall all day long, and I pretty much know what they're thinking. I have a hard time knowing what the other 799,000 people are thinking. And I think that city policy, city issues, what comes out of City Hall would be much better served if we all had more say. That's really why I started Reset San Francisco. Reset San Francisco is the idea that not everybody has the time to be at City Hall at 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon because we have jobs, we have families, we have other commitments that might keep us away from City Hall. So the idea was, let's put it online and let's have a transparent community that we all participate in. Traditionally, you would give a candidate issues, give 100 wish list issues and hope that they might actually do 10 of them. In fact, you'd be ecstatic if they did 10 of them. But really, there's been no accountability, there's been no follow-up, and there's really been no feedback. So it's once you give the list, then you pray and hope that something actually happens. By creating a Reset San Francisco, we put it all online, so you could see it. You could see my comments, you could see other people's comments, and you could see the whole dialogue. The way I think of the arts is, arts shouldn't be looked at as charity, and that's really what it's perceived as right now in San Francisco. Arts is really the key, one of the many keys to our economy. We are an innovation economy. And who are the major innovators in society except for artists? And what I'm saying is these aren't necessarily artists who are full-time artists. They may be artists in their spare time, but they're the same folks who might work at many of the high-tech startups. They might work in the gaming industry. They might work in the life sciences industry. It's this creative class of people that is constantly innovating. And we are an innovation economy. If San Francisco does not keep innovating, we're going to be like Texas. We're going to be like many other cities that go the way of Detroit, frankly. The key is to really make a strong case for the arts. I think it's clear that from reading all the literature I've seen, the arts community brings in over $1 billion into our local industry. For every $1 invested in the nonprofit community, we get $7 back. I think it's really up to us to prove that civic return on investment. Because I think if we can prove a return on investment, then people will see it not as charity, something nice to have or as a luxury, but really as an investment in our economy and as a way to create jobs, which is the way I think we should be talking about. If you look at my office, we haven't had a single budget cut because I talked about my office. We are revenue generating in San Francisco. What I proved to the city and to the Board of Soups and the mayor is every dollar people invested in my office, they might have got $5 back, $10 back. One year we got $1 million in budget increase. We got $100 million above our budget for the city. So with those kind of returns, people can't argue with them. So let me just stop there and take any questions and have any dialogue with you. Yeah, Deborah.
So thank you for acknowledging the economic benefit of the arts. However, that's just the nonprofit sector. If you add in the for-profit sector in the arts, it's $3 to $4 billion every year. So having said that, and I think that you're aware of our recommendations from the task force, can you talk about how you would secure funding to the arts and also how you would make the delivery of it more effective within our bureaucracy?
Well, one, looking at the task force, the main recommendation that I saw was, combining the commission and the
Grants for the arts.
Thank you, Grants for the Arts. It's like, what's the other group's name?
Exactly.
Exactly, because they're so well known. Sorry about that. But basically, for me, and Deborah knows this, she's worked with me, my pet peeve is really duplication in government. And I just find our job is not to protect fiefdoms. Our job is to deliver services as best and as quickly as possible. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to have those two agencies that are duplicative. Or if they're not totally duplicative, they should be working much closer together. That's one. I think two is, we need to make a much stronger argument, right? Because I think the public perception is arts is something that we give money to for someone to do. That there's no job component back. I think the major issue right now in our country is the economy. And if we can demonstrate that arts has the ability to increase jobs, to create jobs, and that the reason people are here, and I really believe that. I don't think, the people who are in their 20s who bike to work at Twitter, they're going to be biking up the street right up there. 30% of them bike to work. I don't think they'd be living in San Francisco if there wasn't this vibrant art cultural community. What difference would this be than Sunnyvale? So frankly, there's a reason that Twitter's here, that Yelp is here, that Salesforce decided to say. There's a reason because they can hire creative folks. And creative folks are attracted by that culture. Otherwise, they would be in San Mateo. Otherwise, they would be in Hayward. It's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to be in those locations.
So in terms of your reassessment of real estate
Yes.
in the city, could you talk a little bit about what your plan is to bring more revenues?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I took over what was considered one of the worst offices in San Francisco. We're on our way to making it one of the best. I've inherited all my workforce. 80% of the workers that were there when I walked in the door are still there. Because of, we brought in efficiencies, streamlined, we made it much more accountable. And it wasn't that people didn't want to do their job. I don't think anybody told them what their job was. So we actually told them what their job was, try to set benchmarks, try to set standards so people would know what they were trying to meet. In the last 6 years, we brought in over $300 million above our budget. That's through closing loopholes, being much more aggressive about making sure all the rules are inherited fairly. Just in the last 6 months, we've been looking at transfer taxes. And we brought in over $6 million in unreported, underreported and unreported transfer tax just in the last 6 months. And that's just us doing our job better. So just imagine how much more revenue is at stake. It's really millions of dollars. I mean, I know every politician says that, but I've proven it, and we have the numbers to substantiate it. So there's a lot at stake.
And Prop 13?
Prop 13, I'm a huge fan of having a split roll. I think there are a number of different ways that we can have a split roll without creating havoc to commercial property around the state. But if we actually went to a complete split roll, it would generate $7 billion to the state. And that's according to the Board of Equalization. I mean, that's $7 billion out of a $21 billion deficit. That's a lot of money. So for me, I'm against subsidies for, you know, I don't think we should be subsidizing, you know, the Westfield Mall or the AT&T ballpark or the B of A building, you know, with the same subsidy that we give homeowners. I really don't think that's very, very fair. And I don't think that's what most people thought of when they were looking at Prop 13 and when they were passing Prop 13.
So is there a chance in hell that that's going to...
I really think there is. And I think, you know, I think the challenge is getting past that perception that there isn't a chance in hell. I've talked to...
How do you do it as mayor, though? It's a state.
How do you do it as mayor?
Yeah.
You do it you know, what we always think of is, I think the bar is set so low in terms of leadership ideals that people forget that being mayor of San Francisco, you're supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to lead on tough issues, not just easy issues, right? You're not just supposed to do the ribbon cutting when everyone's happy. You're supposed to lead on really what are the toughest issues in the state. And I don't think it's a tougher issue in the state than Prop 13. And I don't think it's a tougher issue in the state than the state budget. I mean, our budget is a mess, not just locally, but at the state level. And I think if we don't talk about it, we're really going to flush education down the toilet. I mean, we're looking at, because the governor wasn't able to put his revenue measures on the ballot, we're looking at a $500, this budget cycle, $500 per pupil cut in San Francisco Unified. $500. What that comes down to is teachers going to get laid off. I mean, that's what it means. Let me just translate what that means. You know, doesn't mean that students are going to pay $500 more. So I think we have to talk to parents. We have to make sure they understand that this is money for education. We got to talk to the UC, the CSU students, understand that this is money for higher education. I think we need to make an argument. It's not just about more money for people in suits like me. It's more money for our teachers. It's more money for our faculty. It's more money for nurses or public safety or public health. I think it's really, we have to be much smarter about how we talk about just not money for money's sake. And but I think you're right. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's a long road to hoe, but they also got Prop 13 passed, and that wasn't easy.
Have one or two more questions if we got them.
It seems like you're familiar with land use issues.
Yeah.
Many of our artists congregate in what have been known as the industrial districts of
Sure.
town, and those are having, going through more changes, especially with the finalization of the Eastern Neighborhoods Plan. For example, the Concourse Center, I know, which has been a resource for a lot of arts and business groups, is looking at being made into a large housing complex recently. Where would you say would be the best nexus for people to concentrate in, or if there's a part of town that you think would be good to...
I'm not sure exactly the best place for people to congregate. Here's what I would say, is that we have a shortage of affordable housing. I mean, to me, you know, part of the forced congregation is because artists probably congregate toward areas where they can afford to live and to work. We need to do a much better job of affordable housing. I've supported the last few affordable housing bonds. I supported the affordable housing set-aside. As mayor, I wouldn't just sign my name to an affordable housing bond. I would lead the effort for affordable housing bond. The last few times it got like, what, 63%, 64%, just 2 or 3 percentage points from passing. And I think that's so critical, not just for artists, but for our families. I mean, I have so many friends who've now moved out of town because once they had kids, they decided San Francisco was unaffordable, couldn't live here. And we're not talking, you know, rich families, we're just talking middle-class families. And I think that that is such a critical issue. For me, I would probably look to this group to tell me where they thought the best nexus or locations would be. But I imagine historically, again, if you look at it, artists congregate in areas which are pretty affordable, that other people historically haven't wanted to live, probably because the prices are low.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.